Johnny Mac here, Motor Stories Tech Tips with Unkie John, or I like to say MCEL Fresh. But we got the snow machine, 1990 Ski-Doo Formula Plus, running a 521 Rotax. It's a Type 536, so it's a little detuned. It's only putting out like 70 horsepower, which it hits pretty good. I don't know, you'll probably see Cinch says he's going to put up some of the footage, but this thing's a blast. I've never had a snowmobile before. I rode them a couple times when I was a kid, but I figured $500, you know, I was looking for something, you know, I did a little research when you're buying snowmobiles. You don't want to go for those 70s ones because the tracks could be old and stuff like that. And at least this one, I know the track is only maybe 30 years old. 20, I do the math.
And we know that it can mow down at least 2.5-inch trees.
Yeah, well, Cinch was out there trying to, break into the 15 acres of unprospected land next door. And Piper and I were sitting there, and I noticed that the headlight wasn't moving, and I heard like, So I'm like, well, I went over on the Badger 80 quad runner, and I find him trying to do forestry with it. I'm like, this is not a fucking mulcher, dude. Well, apparently he thought it was, and he's like, well, I ran over these trees before. They're only 3-inch saplings, and he's trying to grind through them with the track. I'm like, okay, calm it down here, pull it back. Had to break down a tree. You're gonna have to start carrying a hatchet with you if you're gonna ride it like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had a really good time tonight. About 6 inches of snow out here, and boy, it was supposed to be the $500 sled that cured me from ever wanting a sled again. Turns out, after a carb clean and a little bit of work on it, it's a blast, and it's so far been really reliable and fun to ride.
So if somebody was going to look at a snow machine, and just like you were, so you got there, what did you look for to make sure that you wanted to buy that thing and know that you knew it was going to run?
I knew that I was going to buy that thing before I even got there, because the guy took some half-ass pictures. Like it was like still buried in his garage, and he just took a picture of like the seat and stuff like this. Then I called him up on the phone. I'm like, what's the deal? He's like, well, my wife's making me sell it. I bought this thing for a bachelor party. We ripped it for a weekend. It was the best sled there. I had to tow 2 other guys home on it. This thing's a blast, but she's making me get rid of it. He's like, it might even run, but I can't say that it has. It sat for a couple of years, and it did. The carbs needed clean. But he's like, I hate selling it, but it's just sitting there, and she wants me to get rid of it.
So did you have to buy any parts at all, or no?
I bought a set of air cleaners for it because the boots on the original box were bad, and I couldn't find anything, so I just put a pair of sock filters on it. But nice big, that one has 34 millimeter Rakunis, which were not bad at all. Mm-hmm. And it's a liquid-cooled twin-cylinder 2-stroke Rotax that's, putting out 65, 70 horsepower. Which you can attest that it is putting out the amounts of horsepower it is supposed to.
We have a pretty long straightaway, and I never got full throttle on that thing without scaring the shit out of myself.
Yeah, it's you rip it out through the yard and you start going, and then you hit a couple little bumps, and even though it has pretty decent suspension, it starts bouncing like a basketball across a field,
Yeah.
So yeah, good times.
So, all right, would you recommend buying a 1990 snowmobile for $500?
Yeah, that one's turned out well. We'll see. You know what? One of these times we'll probably be out there and the track will blow off or something like that. But I looked at it and the track's not too rotten, and it was inside whenever it was stored and stuff. So.
Well, if it handled the trees, I think
yeah, apparently it can mow over trees, which is this. I was doing that at Bruce's house a little bit, but. Yeah, I don't think it's one I would take up to Upper Michigan and go on a 500-mile weekend ride, but It's definitely a yard sled for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right, drive fast and take chances.
Nice.